Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Curly K Glam. I'm here today to give an analysis of All American Homecoming. So, All American Homecoming was just put on Netflix the other day. And so, my husband is an All American fan. He has been with the series since the beginning. Um, so I'm a little bit familiar with All American. I did not watch the show because honestly I wasn't interested in the show. But since this Homecoming was based on the HBCU and it's a spinoff of All American, he was so excited when I told him the other day they added it to Netflix, and he would not let me watch it without him. So we decided this weekend to have a Netflix chill weekend and stay in the house and binge watch All American Homecoming. And let me just say, I have seen maybe 5 to 7 episodes in total out of the whole series of All American. And I'm the type of person where TV is my escape. I do not like to watch any type of show where I got to crack the code on stuff or I got to be like divulged in the story. I'm more of a animated comedy type, very lax TV show watcher. Like All American, the original series had too much drama for me. I mean, I know who got shot? Like somebody got shot on All American. Somebody had overdose on drugs. I mean, even though it was based on a lot, like it was just a lot, and it was emotionally heavy. And I don't like to be invested in emotionally heavy shows. I am a loose, like I want to free watch a show. Like I want to be submerged in the show, and I want to be carefree about it. I don't want to be trying to be emotionally like attached to a character because they going, like, you know what I'm saying? So All American. Now Homecoming. I had some knowledge of the characters. And so just like how, for example, Girlfriends had a game spinoff during the series, All American had a spinoff series episode during their show. So my husband thought that it was important for me before I watched the show to watch their Homecoming episode. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm watching the episode, and so far I'm liking the characters. I was familiar with Damon, the dude who played Damon Payton, Alex Smith, I think that's his name. I'm familiar with him because he played a character on the Quad. I don't remember his character name, but I was familiar with him because he played on BET's show. That BET had an HBCU series like show called The Quad a few years ago. So I was familiar with him. So I was like, oh, okay, so he's going to be the main character. And of course, I'm familiar with Corey because I am a Tia and Tamera stan. Anything Tia and Tamera is on, I'm going to watch. And Taj, I'm going to watch. So, of course, since Corey is married to Tia, I was watching. I was like, oh, so he's going to be on the show too. Okay, cool. And so then the show was about Simone, the girl who was on All American. So I'm like, okay, so basically this is going to be kind of like our modern day different world. And it's crazy I'm saying that because if you're familiar with my channel, you know I review Grownish. So I'm like, now I got 2 shows on TV. One giving me the HBCU Black experience, and then I got another one that's a PWI, but it's based on Black students who go to a PWI. So there's a lot of like comparisons and meshing going on with, me watching the show. So, one, the show is good. Like, to me, I like Homecoming better than All American. And I think my husband felt the same way too because so far, All American Homecoming has been an easy watch. Like, I like the fact that even though the show is based around athletics, they give you different sports. For example, typically when I was watching the quad at HBCU was based around the football team and the band. And of course, like when you watch Drumline was based on the HBCU experience, but it was based on the band. And then when you have a different world gave you just basically the students and their classes and what they majored in. It didn't really highlight the sports aspect. So we got more of what goes on at the HBCU type aspect with Different World versus, athletics. So in comparison to Different World, Grownish, and the Quad, I feel like a lot of those stories had a lot of similarities. I like the fact that it highlighted tennis and baseball because we know that basketball and football is a sport that is heavily infused with black people. But then you get baseball and then you get tennis at HBCU. And typically baseball and tennis are not predominantly black sports. So I like the fact that they show you the aspect that black people do play baseball and tennis. And there's an extensive history with black people playing baseball. Of course, we had the Negro Leagues because at the time, during segregation, black people couldn't play with whites, and Jackie Robinson was one of the first to integrate with, playing a black person, leaving the Negro Leagues and playing in the MLB. So I thought that was an interesting aspect. Also, we have an interesting aspect with Simone. Simone's backstory is that she was a teen mom. She got pregnant in high school and she ended up giving her baby up for adoption. And the adoption is open. And so she has a relationship with her son as well as a relationship with her son's adoptive parents. So I thought that was an interesting aspect in her navigating, being at HBCU. Now, Simone's Simone's aunt is a professor at the HBCU they attend called Princeton, and that influenced her to go there, of course, because her aunt had her visit her on a homecoming weekend. Keisha reminds me a lot of Keisha's character reminds me a lot of, I don't remember the character's name, but she was dark-skinned Claire on Wife and Kids. Her mom was the president at Georgia A&M on the Quad. So I thought that was a similarity. There was a blackout episode. There was a blackout episode on the Quad. There was a blackout episode on Grownish. And there was a blackout episode on All American. So I'm like, I'm gonna need the HBCUs to get together with the blackouts. I liked that I could watch them experience the HBCU experience, because as a student who went to a predominantly black high school, my ring light just cut off, y'all. Hold on one second. As a black student who went to a predominantly black high school, I decided when I attended college that I wanted to go to a predominantly white school because I felt like when I enter into the corporate world, I wanted to have a broader view of what the world looks like. I wanted to go to school with people that came from all backgrounds. And since I had spent majority of my time at a predominantly black high school that was located in a predominantly black section of the city I live in, I was around, that was my HBCU experience. We had the frats and all that in high school. So just watching them go through like the same things that I experienced, and then like at a PWI, because you're a black student at a PWI, you find black people, so y'all have your own community in that PWI, which I guess is kind of why I related a lot to Grownish, but it still doesn't negate the fact that like my PWI was right around the corner from A&T, and like A&T and UNCG mingled a lot, so I felt like I still had that whole experience. But back to this, I like the characters. I like Keisha, I like Cam, I like Damon, I like Simone, I like Nathaniel, I like I say Damon. I like JR. The only one I don't like is Thea. I'm not here for Thea. We gonna go ahead and say it. I'm not here for Thea. I'm not here for Thea because starting off at the merger episode, when she just went to visit school, Thea was hating from day one. I was just like, whew. You could tell that Thea was one of them spoiled, rich, entitled girls. And even though she was at a HBCU, would I consider her the Whitley Gilbert? No. Whitley won't even that bad. And honestly, when I started out watching Different World, I did not like Whitley. But as time went on, I did like Whitley. But Thea, I ain't gonna say Thea ain't a grower. But right now, I don't like Thea. From day one, she knew that Simone liked Damon. Just because Simone had a man don't mean that she... Just because Simone had a man don't mean she liked Damon. And from day one, everybody on campus knew that Damon was in love with Simone. Even from the merger episode, he was in love with Simone. And so all of a sudden, like, which was another similarity, Thea went on a date with this guy named Kevin, and he tried to assault her. He gave her some liquor and tried to take advantage of her. And it was another episode. It was an episode on the quad that was just like that. And the dean of students' daughter was assaulted by the quarterback, allegedly. And so I thought that was an important episode. But Damon was there to save her. He actually wasn't able to take advantage of her, but he tried. Excuse me. And I thought that was an important episode because things like that happen to women on college campuses all the time. And 9 times out of 10, women who are assaulted on college campuses is always by somebody they know. And even though she didn't really know him like that, she was getting to know him, and he tried to take advantage of her very early on. Like, they weren't even in a relationship yet. But he tried to take advantage. But luckily, Damon saw her and he rescued her. I think that also made Thea fall for Damon because at the time, Damon was the only one around. And since Damon was around, that was pretty much the only person that she could really talk to and, like, express herself to. And I think she kind of fell for him via the hero syndrome. Like, because he saved her, she felt like she was worthy, like she was finally worthy of somebody caring for her, and that somebody did care for her because they took the initiative to help her out in her time of need. And I think she kind of fell for him. But I also feel like her relationship with Damon is slightly dishonest. And like I said, she knows how Simone felt for her. And Simone and her teammates, and Simone did all of this bending over backwards for Thea, trying to be on Thea's good side. I'm like, girl, forget Thea. Girl, you came back. You ain't played tennis in a long time. You and Thea played Queen of the Court, and you like to beat that girl. And then finally she give you the respect you deserve, but she still talk to y'all any kind of way. Like, I wouldn't have had 2 words to say to Thea, honestly and truthfully. I like the dynamic between Simone, Nathaniel, and Keisha. I feel like Keisha, ever since, Keisha and Nathaniel, I feel like ever since Simone came to homecoming weekend, Keisha and Nathaniel and Simone have remained close, and they have Keisha's best interest at heart, and they seem to keep it like a buck with her. I like the dynamic of, even though Keisha is the president's daughter, I like the dynamic that Keisha and her father had. They really depended on each other, and Keisha ended up pursuing her dreams. She had a hard conversation with her daddy because her father had this expectation of her to go into college and to pursue a medical career. And a lot of the times when people go to college, they go to college not knowing what they want to do. So they go to college doing what they were told that they should do and not knowing their passion. And then they end up getting a degree or continuing their education in a field where they were told it was best for them, but it's not necessarily what was best for themselves and their decision. And so I felt like it was great that Keisha figured that out as a sophomore, because sometimes when you get to your junior and senior year and you figuring out what your desire is, it's too late. It's too late. Then you gotta go and try to take back all them classes and all this other stuff. I like, even though it was hard to watch, I like that they incorporated that Coach Marcus had a mood disorder, because a lot of the times Black people avoid the discussions of mental health and being on medicine. And a lot of people think that a lot of Black people think that it's wrong to take medicine. And some medicines do affect others in different ways and turn people into zombie-like people. And it is important, like, for people to find a doctor that has their best interest for you at heart, and that they acknowledge what you're feeling and what's going on. Because a lot of times doctors would just prescribe people medicine just to take it, just so they can get a check for it. And the medicine could be tearing that person apart, like all across the board, physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Like, it could be tearing that person up, and they just continuously keep refilling their prescription, and like, it could just be terrible. But thankfully, Damon's mom got to Coach Marcus in time enough during his breakdown to where she was able to advocate for him and help him, and to be there by his side to let him know that everything was going to be okay. And that just like, it was just a touching scene. Like, she was able to help him get back on track, and that's what he needed. I thought Amara would have been there for him, but at the time, like, Amara and Coach's dynamic is a lot. It's very complicated, because a lot of things happened in the past that were not addressed. I mean, bits and pieces of it were addressed, during the episode, during the blackout, but I still feel like there was a lot that happened throughout the time that she and Marcus were not in a relationship that she doesn't know about. Just like she still doesn't know that Marcus had a mental breakdown, or that, he was on medicine. Also, I thought it was important. I thought it was interesting that they discussed Marcus's time in the minor leagues and how him taking performance enhancing drugs affected him. That was that reminded me of an episode on The Game when Jason Pitts started taking steroids because he felt like he wasn't performing at a high enough level to remain on team and to increase his contract. And so I thought that was interesting because Marcus ended up divulging that his time in the minors was limited because he felt like in order to leave the minors and go to the majors that he needed to perform at a higher level. And so the one time that he tried steroids, he had a bad allergic reaction, and it was so embarrassing for him that he just ended up, going back to his team, and they came out with a statement saying that he was injured and he went home. And I think with that adjustment and that situation happening to him, it totally changed his view on life, his self-worth, his motivation. And I believe he tried his best to turn around and, use what he learned to redirect students in another direction, but his past still haunted him. And so that was an interesting dynamic to see. I know that I said in the beginning that I like a carefree show, but I feel like these topics weren't as heavy as Lord the Ring Light. I feel like these topics weren't as heavy as the Black Lives Matter, even though I know that's an important thing to discuss. Sometimes it's just hard to rewatch stuff like that on TV, especially after we already have lived it, like in the present, and then shows use it to, of course, to get the message out there, but it's still hard to watch. Also, situations like alcoholism and drug abuse, that has had an effect on certain people in my family. So the subject of alcoholism and drug abuse is just a road that, not that I don't care to go down, but I care not to watch that on TV. What else? I like the fact that Simone opened up to Damon and her friends about her being a mom and about her giving her son up. Oh my God, ring light, giving her son up for adoption. Y'all, I don't know what's going on with the ring light, but I'm not gonna let it deter me from my analysis. I feel like with Simone having to open adoption, I was totally understanding as to why Simone took her time telling Damon about her story, because at the time Damon was having a somewhat of an identity crisis, and he was trying to figure out his birth mom and his birth parents, and it was okay, whatever. It was just hard, like, altogether, because like the things he was saying about how could a mom give up her child for adoption? Could she not care about the child? And it made Simone feel condemned, and I can't blame her, because I can't say that I wouldn't have felt condemned if I was in Simone's place, especially if I had a friend that was as close to me as Damon. And I feel like it was more personal to Simone, not only because they were friends, but because they had feelings for each other. And so I feel like she heavily valued what Damon thought of her. Regardless if she was in a relationship with Jordan, she highly regarded what Damon thought about her. And so it was hard for her to explain herself to him. And even when she tried to, he ended up kind of feeling like bad, because, which, not saying he should have, but sometimes you just don't know what a person has gone through in their life. And so even though the situation he was talking about himself, she took it personal, because it was something that it was an experience they both shared, whether he was on the receiving end and she was on the giving end. Also, adoption altogether is just a hard topic to discuss, because in the instance of JR and Damon and his mom and his dad, I feel like adoption is a very, very positive thing, because there are a lot of children in the system who need homes. But also, it's just the fact that, like, it's a double-edged sword, because those same children appreciate the fact that somebody took them and loved them. But it's just a simple fact that, like, I feel like all adopted children have to come to terms with the fact that my parents gave me up, and did they love me? I know, like, some people feel like their parents loved them so much that they sacrificed giving up, like Simone. They sacrificed giving up for the child because they know they couldn't give the child what they deserved. But then in the instance of Damon's situation with JR's mom giving him up because she had an affair and her husband necessarily didn't want to raise another child, that was a lot. That was a lot. And so then, like, I feel like Damon would have been okay if it was a situation like Simone, more fine if it was a situation like Simone, versus him finding out that there was an affair, that his daddy lied, that the daddy ended up not being his birth father, who he thought, and the birth father ended up being JR's father. Like, whoo, child, that was a saga. I just wish they wouldn't have dragged it out so many episodes either, because it was 13 episodes in that first season, and they drugged that adoption the whole season. Like, so now, like, when season 2 come on, I don't want to hear nothing else about the adoption. That's just me. I don't want to hear. And I hope it don't, like, Thea tearing her rotator cuff, like, that was, I thought that was interesting. did that happen? Because I'm not really familiar with the weights of rackets in tennis. So her switching rackets and her tearing her rotator cuff, I'm like, since she uses her same repetitive motions, because I'm a kinesiology major. And so we learn about biomechanics and, how people navigate and when people exercise and everything like that. So me, in my sports med bag, thinking she tore her rotator cuff because the racket was heavy. I'm like, did she tear it because the racket was heavy and she had to swing harder? Or was her injury already in the motion of happening because she swings so much? She's been playing competitively since she was a young girl. So with the repetitive motion of her swinging and spiking the ball and everything like that, could that have affected her rotator cuff and she not known over the years, and the racket was just the icing on the cake? Like, I was like, I wonder if that was the case with her. But it was pretty mean that she blamed Simone, and she tried to say Simone sabotaged her career, which all goes back to why I just feel like I don't like Thea all the way across the board. Not to say that, in seasons to come, I will not like Thea, but I'm just saying, like, Thea, really. Cam. I didn't like Cam when I saw the few episodes of All American. So coming into this show, I already knew I ain't like Cam. But I feel like him finding himself and his passions is what I was talking about earlier in my discussion about going to college and doing, what it is you love and not what you just know. Like, I myself was an athlete my whole life, and I had a harder transition leaving high school into college when I stopped playing sports. Like, I had played sports my entire life. I played basketball, volleyball, and I threw shot and disc. And so I was always busy and on the go my whole life, my whole childhood up into my young adult years. So when I turned from 1 to 18, I was playing sports. And then when I got in college, I had a hard time adjusting because I was used to being a part of organization. I was used to being part of a team. I was used to getting up, going to practice. I was used to my whole day being scheduled around what I was doing, my sport. And so getting to college, I had a harder adjustment period. Could I have walked on? Yes, but it was just the fear of me not being able to live out my dream that deterred me from trying out. And I had a hard adjustment, in college because of me not playing sports and me becoming normal. I understand, like, what Cam was going through. And then for him to be playing and he get hurt and he have an aneurysm, and so he has to go through, college, like football being his way out. Like, he heavily depend on it to help him become in a better financial situation. And so at the end of that episode, when he got that email saying his scholarship had been terminated, he owed the school $9,000. Ooh, girl. I would have been up in that bursar office real fast. First of all, how y'all just gonna get rid of my scholarship in the middle of the semester? Just because, first, like, y'all at least owe him that 1 year. He was on scholarship and he got hurt. He might not got hurt on the field, but still, like, that's just crazy. And then it's just the fact that, like, the school was hurting for money already, so they couldn't really afford to give him a scholarship anyway. Like, it was a lot. And with that scandal, that merger going on with the school merging with PWIs, that's happened a lot to a lot of HBCUs, especially in North Carolina. I'm just going to say for North Carolina. That happened to a lot of HBCUs. A lot of HBCUs were not, like, up to par in terms of room and board, food, the aesthetics, like the way the campus looked. And so a lot of schools joined, like here in North Carolina, joined the North Carolina system and merged with like UNC and stuff. Like that stuff is real, and it's sad because you have so many people who are prosperous in the United States who went to HBCUs, and it's like I don't know if they're giving back to the school, or I'm like, the school making money from tuition and they're making money from sports. I'm like, where is the money going? Where are the funds going? I don't know. Like, these are the things I was asking my husband because he attended 2 HBCUs. And so I'm just like, I don't know, like, where, how does that happen? Because as a person who went to a PWI, I didn't have to experience any of those things because my school received funding from the state. I went to a public school. My last 3 years, my first 2 years, I went to a private school. So, you know, the way they accrued their money was different from the way the public school got their money. But it's just a simple fact that, like, honestly, that's another reason why I didn't go to HBCU, because I didn't want to have to go through that. But I love, even though I didn't go to HBCUs, I love the concept of HBCUs, and I love what they do for our people. I just hate that sometimes when I watch these shows or hear people's experiences, it always feel like it was a struggle. But that same situation where they were going through with a merger, that happened on the quad as well. So, like I said, there was a lot of similarities between Homecoming and the quad, especially with the scandal going on with like the dean of students and the merger, where the funding was going between whether the whether the baseball team had a scandal on the team versus the band on the quad having a scandal, and like the baseball was what was bringing notoriety to the school, and then the band was what's bringing notoriety to the school. I recommend, even though the show got canceled, if there's anything BET can do to revive the show, I know the characters probably won't be the same because them characters probably have moved on to other things in their career. But BET has something with the quad, and you can go and watch the quad on BET.com for free. If you like All American, I encourage you to watch the quad on BET because it had a lot of similarities. And it was a good show. I just hate that. Sorry, y'all, during this video, my ring light kept going on and off because I don't know what's wrong with it. But I like, all in all, even though my review was long, I like Homecoming. I'm excited to see where it's going as a show in the future. And I hate to see that BET The Quad didn't make it because I feel like BET was on something with that. But moving on, I like the characters. I like where BET is going with the characters. I like the storyline so far, and I'm interested to see. So kudos to All American being successful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned because I got a grownish analysis of the trailer coming, and Grownish starts this week, so we'll be back upload every week. So stay tuned to my channel, and when All American comes back on in the fall, I will now be doing Homecoming reviews. So stay tuned, y'all, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at CurlyKGlam, and follow my TikTok at CurlyK919, and I'll be back with more videos. Deuces.